Champions Mojo is part of the CG Sports Network.
Welcome to the award-winning Champions Mojo, hosted by two world record-holding athletes and health, life, and leadership coaches. Be inspired as you listen to Conversations with Champions. And now, your hosts, Kelly Pallas and Maria Parker.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Champions Mojo podcast. And it's not a surprise today. My co-host is Maria Parker. Hey, Maria.
Hi, Kelly. It's so great to see you this morning and be with you.
It's great to see you. And Maria, you know, we're excited about all topics, but today's topic of owning your adult athlete is so near and dear to our hearts. We have so many friends that are adult athletes. And of course, we're both adult athletes. Before we get into this, how you can own your adult athlete, we're going to talk about the why right out of the gate, because we know that almost everything we do is based on the why. And I want to start out with a little story. So Mark and I, my husband, we were out for our evening walk, and Mark looked at me really seriously and he said, "Why do you swim?" And I just thought, you know, I could see that this was a serious question. And I don't know why he was asking me, but I said, you know, I swim because I want to be healthy. That's like, health is the real wealth. And I swim because it makes working out easy. Swimming with other people makes working out easy. And if we can make working out easy, then we get all the benefits of keeping our bodies fit and vital to be healthy. So that is like, we have this thing in whenever we go to swim practice, we talk about getting on the conveyor belt.
I love
like
that.
you go to swim practice and you just get in the group, and before you know it, you've laughed and you've shared and you've pushed yourself and you've swum for an hour with your friends versus, oh my gosh, going to the pool by yourself and swimming alone. So why do I swim? Because I really love the friendships, the community that keeps me healthy, the community, we know, being part of a community, and because it keeps me fit. So the why is the health, the wealth. And sure, it can be remotely about times and medals, but not. I mean, you know, there have been plenty of times I've swum that I'm not in shape to win anything or have any good times, and I still had just as much fun. So I just think owning that adult athlete allows us to have that why of keeping fit. And Maria, I've held the floor here for a while. So tell us your thoughts on this.
Well, when you brought this subject up, I was thinking the same thing, why? And for me, it's part of being a complete person, being physical, using my body in a physical way. There's emotional, for me, there's emotional health, there's spiritual health, there's intellectual health, and there's physical health. And I can be, doing great in the other three. And if my body isn't, moving, if I'm not experiencing it, myself physically and understanding, what it means to move, to move it, to feel muscles, to feel the bones, then I'm neglecting a whole aspect of who I am, who I was created to be, who, the whole person. So, I think it's very difficult to be, for me, it's impossible to be happy without exercise. I didn't even know that as a kid, because as a child, you naturally move, but then, and we'll talk about it a little later, and I've talked a lot about it on the show. So like, I went through a very sedentary period of my life, and then discovered athletics, mostly due to joining your family, and so I called myself an adult onset athlete, but the completeness and the peace and joy that it brings me are equal to the spiritual aspects of my life and the intellectual aspects of my life and the familial emotional aspects of my life. So yeah, I think you're incomplete if you're not if you're not physically active. And it's a natural way to be physically active is to think of yourself as an athlete.
Yeah. And so, yeah. So Maria, I think a lot of people may be listening and saying, okay, Maria, but you're talking about just exercising. And yeah, I move my body, I exercise, but you guys are asking me to own being an athlete.
Yeah.
So let's define what an athlete is. And maybe that'll help people own it.
Okay, sure. So it means a person, this is a Webster's definition, right?
Yep.
Person who is proficient in sports and other forms of physical exercise. Proficient. It doesn't say you have to win your events or even be one of the top participants, just being proficient, competent, or skilled. And another definition that you and I have created for adult athleticism is someone who likes to test themselves.
Yeah.
You could go out and just take a walk or whatever, but the idea of using your body and experiencing your body in this way and teaching it or training it to be a swimmer or a cyclist or a squash player or a pickleball player or a tennis player or whatever, is taking that to a finer, a greater degree, I think, than just, although, there's speed walkers too. That's a sport. So anything can become a sport, I suppose.
Yeah. So I love our definition where it's someone who likes to test themselves. Yes. Because you can become an athlete. If you're a walker and you say, you know what, I'm just walking every day a mile, then you may say, you know what, I'm going to walk 1.5 miles. So you're just testing. Like, can I walk 1.5 miles?
That's
can
right.
I walk 2 miles? So you can just testing yourself. So, so we've covered the why. Yeah. Why, if we haven't convinced you of why you should be an adult athlete, then, we hope that we have, but now how, so now's the how. And Maria and I each came up with 3 of our kind of own personalized hows of owning being an adult athlete. And I'm going to start with my first one, which I know many, many people can relate to, which is when we did sports in our youth. And that could have been anything, whether it was a good experience or a bad experience. At some point in our life, we were part of some little team, some little sport, whether
even
you were
kickball on the street, whatever,
whatever it was, you did something at one point. And one of the things that is particularly prevalent in the swimming community is to hear college students or college swimmers or pro swimmers say that they've retired. They make a giant statement on their social media platforms. I saw one the other day that the title of this pro swimmer that retired said, "Officially washed up." That was now his, that was the post. And I know there was some humor in that, but I asked these swimmers. In fact, we were at NCAAs. I ran into one of the swimmers that I know, and she was senior year, 5th year. I said, "So what are you going to do?" And she said, "Well, now that I'm retired." And I said, whoa, don't say retired. You can just say now that I'm taking a break, because swimming is a lifelong sport. There are many sports that are lifelong. So I ask that if you want to own being an adult athlete, that you re-engage with whatever that younger self was, whatever that sport was. Don't say that you're retiring from swimming, or that I used to be, like, you'll meet somebody at a party and they might know, "Oh, you're a swimmer. Oh, I used to swim." But just say, "Yeah, I'm a swimmer, but I took a break." Maybe you took a 30-year break, like your husband, Maria, took a 30-year break from swimming and now he's back. So that is my first way to be engaged in being an adult athlete, is just reconnect to what you were, and say, if you're young and you're stopping a sport, say, "I'm just taking a break." You've already been competent. You've been proficient. You've been skilled at that sport. Don't give it up. Stay in touch with it. And if not, reconnect to it. And you can connect to that. We always love to be that person that you want to be.
Right.
So that's my first one.
And mine is really just a spin-off of that, which is own the language. So my perspective, of course, is different, because I wasn't particularly good at sports as a young person. And then I got involved in moving my body and experienced the joy of that. And then I started participating in competition, which I don't think you have to do, but I remember saying to you one day, and again, we've told this story before, but I think it bears repeating, well, I'm not an athlete like you. And you were like, what? Stop saying that. You're an athlete. And from that day on, I thought of myself, I called myself an athlete. I think it's really important to own the verbiage before you necessarily own the identity. But, if you think of yourself as an athlete, and, and I've used that again with other people I know, it's like, my sister, I'm so proud of her. She just ran the 10K on Saturday, and she's running way faster than I am right now. And I'm like, Ann, you're an athlete. And she's like, no, you are. And if you think of yourself that way, I think one of the ways that we can maintain our love connection with that part of ourselves is by calling ourselves what we are, which is athletes. Even if you're just out there, trying to increase your walk or your mileage or whatever, if you're out there doing something with your body, you're an athlete. And so owning yourself as, and if you don't like the word athlete, you can think of yourself as, I like to even think of myself as a physical person, as a person who uses her body, who enjoys her body, who's in touch with her body. So I think using the language and thinking of yourself in that way is a really important way to owning your adult athlete.
Yeah, I love that, Maria. And words are so important. We talk about that all the time. And mindset, just saying that. And in a youth culture, it's sometimes the word adult and athlete don't go together.
Right.
It's like, so that was what that was deliberate on our part to say that. So just it's okay to be an adult athlete. So my second one is something that I love, that is just a motivator. It's a how-to when you're on the fence about whether to do something. And this was actually inspired by a friend of mine that I was having coffee after practice with, and his name is Tom, and he and his wife Deb are Deb's in her 60s, Tom's in his 70s, and they do all kinds of challenging races, half Ironmans, marathons, big, events, swimming. Tom's had a transplant. He does the World Transplant Games. He's amazing. And we were sitting, talking at breakfast, and he said he wants to do stuff while he still can. And I just love that future thinking, that if you really think about it, that we know that we're not as good in our, you're not in your 60s yet, but I'm not as good at 60 as I was at 55, as I was at 50, as I was at 45. Yeah, I'm still out there making it happen. But while you can still do stuff, do it. And, my favorite psych song for any performance that I'm going into is While You See a Chance, Take It by Steve Winwood. And that is such a great song. And I love that. While you see a chance, take it. So just think about your future self. Like if you're 30 thinking, well, I'm just too old, I don't think I'm going to play with my soccer league. And Tom and I did have a little breakdown. I'm like, well, you got to kind of balance that with risk, because that is the one thing you don't want to get injured. And these guys were doing an obstacle course. Deb at 65 fell off a jungle gym and broke her leg in one of these races. So, you would think that you do have to balance being, not taking risks that you're going to get injured and miss out on future events. But I like to think of our future selves and know that this is the time. Yeah. Now is the best time to do something.
That's great. I mean, I love that. And we don't, we've talked about this before. You don't know what tomorrow will bring. Today, get out there and use your beautiful body that God gave you. Yeah. Well, my second thing is also kind of about joy. And it's, find, again, Jim and I were talking about this. It's like, why did you, he's been swimming. You encouraged him to join the master swim team, and he's been swimming more than I have. And he's just been loving it. He's just been loving it. So what's the difference now? And he said, now it's because I'm doing it for me. I'm not doing it for a coach or my parents or because I'm on it, I'm just doing it just for pleasure. And so I would extend that to say, feel free to switch up your sports. You don't, just because you've always been a runner, you can become a swimmer or a cyclist, or you've always been a cyclist, or you've played tennis, or whatever your sport in the past was. You can try something new. And that's really exciting to me. That keeps things fresh. Like there's a lot of sports that, again, I don't want to get injured, but there's a lot of sports that I want to try, that I want to do, that I want to learn. So I would say, do it for pleasure, keep it fun. I'm like, well, Jim, it's still hard to get up and, go to swim practice. He was talking about when he was little, he hated to get up early and go to swim practice. I said, you're still getting up early. He said, it's still more, it's my choice. That's on my schedule. He does it. I think with sports, because they're inherently can be uncomfortable, you have to find ways to bring the pleasure into it. And to me, that's about finding something fun or new, or just finding the joy in it, and talking about that too, sharing that. I think if we say with our friends, oh, that was such a hard workout, and oh my God, or we say, that felt so good. I mean, it was so fun to be out there that, and Jim is so great at this, I rode Tropical Trail and it was so gorgeous. I saw this and that. And so when we talk about our activity, it was a hard workout. That felt really good, but we also enjoyed it. It was pleasurable. So using pleasure vocabulary and joy vocabulary around your sport, I think is going to really help you own your adult athlete.
Yeah. And for sure, if you haven't listened to the Amy Rieger podcast, Amy is, a top world number one master swimmer. And she said she does it purely for fun.
Yeah.
Find something fun
that
you enjoy. And, swimming with other people, we're going to throw another word at you here. Ready? Masters athlete. Okay. That is a lot of people think masters are these, Olympians. No. Masters athletes just basically means adult athletes.
That's
so
right.
Find a master's program, a master's swimming team, or a master's tennis team, or a master's running group. There, that word sounds scary, but it's not. And so master's swimming is for everyone. In fact, master's swimming has a section of it called Learn to Swim, Adult Learn to Swim. So our master's team that we have here has everything from former Olympians to people that literally come to a different time and they are just learning to swim.
That's so great.
Yeah, it's so great. So enjoy it. Find a group that will enjoy it, that you can have that joy with. So my third and final one is surround yourself with adult athletes. So we always say that, and that is simple. Your IQ and your bank account and your happiness are the summary of your 5 closest friends. That's what the data says. So if you want to be an adult athlete, find other adult athletes and be on a team with them. And then, the other thing, when we're athletes, guess what athletes generally have? They have coaches.
That's right.
And so if you join a team, you get a coach automatically. So surround yourself with other athletes and get a coach.
I love that. I mean, you and I we're big believers in coaches, but it's true. I mean, if you take yourself seriously enough to have a coach, then, you're going to make huge progress and you're going to think of yourself differently. That's a great point. Well, my third one is, this is the story of my life. If you should put it on my tombstone, tiny goals, take little steps. I think this is very frequent. I think that we live in a world with a lot of anxiety, and anxiety comes from seeing things in the future that look big and scary that you don't know about. And the cure for that is not to look in the future at big, scary things. It's to look at the very next thing. So if you're, for me, I'm just getting back into swimming and diving off the blocks, that's scary. But I don't have to really think about that so much. I can just think about, eventually I'm going to get up there and I'm going to stand there and somebody's going to coach me and help me. And I'm going to figure it out. And so if I don't tell myself, well, I've got to dive off the block like an Olympian or like Kelly or Jim, and I just need to get up there and get out, learn to get off the block, then it's easier. So, and the smaller, the scarier, the more something terrifies you. For instance, you want to run a marathon, and just the idea of, running 10 miles is just like, you just can't even imagine it. And how are you going to feed yourself and drink? And, you don't run a marathon by running 10 miles. You run a marathon by, putting your clothes on and going out the door to go run the block. That's how you start. And, and the bigger and the scarier the thing is, the smaller the goal has to be. And I've talked about this is in my book. You just got to really break things down to what you can do. So own your adult athlete by taking a tiny step in the direction of being that person that you want to be as an athlete, the person who is proficient at a sport, or who wants to test herself.
Yeah, Maria, and we can't hear that enough. I mean, I know we talk about it a lot, but just having those small goals, when you set out to run a marathon, you don't run 26 miles on the first day. You run 20 steps. So
exactly.
I
or
love
you walk a step.
You walk a step. Yeah. I love the analogy of, shining the light on the staircase.
Right.
You just need to see one step at a time.
That's right.
And so we want to hear from you guys out there. Who is starting something? Who's embracing this? What adult activities are you guys doing? We're on all social media platforms. You can reach out to us on any Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, hello@championsmojo.com, anywhere. We want to hear from you what you're doing.
We'd love to hear your story about being an adult athlete.
Yeah. So you may get mentioned on the show, like Tom and Deb got mentioned. You never know. We don't use last names, so you know who you are. But anyway, get out there, be an adult athlete. It's not scary. It's fun. It's the healthy thing to do. And health is the real wealth.
That's right. And you can experience the joy of using your body, which you were intended to use fully.
Yeah. All right.
Love you, Kelly.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
We hear that you love Kelly and Maria's takeaways from each episode. Well, now they'll be called Best Ofs, and you can catch them in a short micropod every week following a full podcast. If you're enjoying the show, we'd love for you to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Thank you for listening to the Champions Mojo podcast, which is produced by Cobra Media.